Okay. Meeting will please come to order. Welcome everyone to the June 25th meeting of the Board of Directors in Nevada Irrigation District. Please stand and join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Division 1.
Here.
Division 2.
Here.
Division 3.
Here.
Division 4.
Present.
Division 5.
Here.
Okay, we will now take comment from the public on any item that is not on the agenda. If you're here and like to speak about something not on the agenda, please come forward to the dais or raise your hand electronically, and we will have a listen.
Madam President, if I may just request one moment.
Yes.
We're going to pull one item from
Oh, that's correct.
from the consent agenda or the general order agenda before we start with public comment, and that's going to be 4B.
Okay. Item 4B will be pulled.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Back to public comment. Is there anyone here? I see folks in the audience? Nope. All right. We will proceed. That will close public comment on items not on the agenda. We will now look at the consent agenda. We have items 3A, 3B, and 3C.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Great. We have a first and a second. Please roll call.
Division 5.
Yes.
Division 4.
Yes.
Division 3.
Aye.
Division 2.
Aye.
Division 1.
Yes. Okay, we will go into now item 4, general orders, and we will start with the annual comprehensive financial report.
And board members, I will introduce, we have Justin Williams from Moon CPA on the line. Justin's been with us before, and he will be giving our report on the annual comprehensive financial report for 2024. So Justin, have at it.
All right. Thanks, Greg. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for the PowerPoint to go over the audit results.
I will say, Justin, since you're pulling this up, we do have members of our finance team in the audience today. And I think if we have any specific questions, we've got some staff that can answer any particular questions if we had.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
You see that PowerPoint okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. As Greg mentioned, I'm Justin Williams, Munn CPAs. Here to present the audit for the last year ended December 31st, 2024. One thing I like to remind board members as well as members of management, the financial statements themselves are the responsibility of management. And then it's our job as the auditor to come in and form an independent opinion on those financials to let the user know whether or not they're fairly stated. So that's the goal of a financial statement audit is the expression of an opinion on the financials of the numbers. So a little bit about our audit process. Our field work was last month in May. So we were out there. We had the whole audit team out there performing the field work in person. Even though it's a financial statement audit, a big part of our audit is looking at your internal controls and your processes that you have in place. So listed out some of the different areas that we do when we're looking at the internal controls. We look at the receipts and revenues coming into the district. We're looking at disbursements and expenses. And the types of things we're looking at as we go through each of these areas, as far as the controls go, we're looking for things like, is there proper segregation of duties among the different processes? You don't want one person to have too much control over a particular area. We're also looking for things like approvals. Are there management approvals of the different transactions? And so as we're going through the receipts, revenue, expenses, HR, payroll, those are the types of things we're looking at. For the HR and payroll part, we're looking at the hiring process, termination process. Are people getting paid with their approved rates? For the payroll, we're looking for is payroll being done timely? Is it being properly approved? And then on financial reporting side, we look at things like bank reconciliations. Are those being done timely? Is there an approval process in place? We look at the different financial reports that are received by the board as well. So those different areas we go through as part of our internal control testing to make sure we have comfort over that before we get into the actual testing of the numbers themselves. So that's really, I think, what most people think of when you think of an audit. It's testing the numbers, it's testing the balances at 12/31, as well as the activity throughout the year. I listed 4 different major types of testing that we do. Cutoff testing is a big one. And what that is oftentimes agencies are good at doing day-to-day processes throughout the year, just regular accounting processes. But when you get to a cutoff period, in this case, 12/31, there's different types of entries that have to be done. So there's accrual entries that have to be done to make sure that things are being done in the proper period. And just because this is done at the end of the year, not throughout the year, there's just more likelihood of error. So it's considered to be higher risk. So therefore, we look at transactions before and after that 12/31 date. So we're looking at leading up to 12/31 and then even into 2025, we're looking at different transactions to make sure that those were properly accrued or recorded in 2024 if needed. We also do analytical review procedures. Examples of these can be, we'll do variance analysis where we look at balances in different accounts over several years to see if there's any unusual fluctuations or fluctuations that we weren't expecting. And then we can dig into those a little further. We also look at things, another analytical review procedures, ratio analysis. We'll look at things like payroll as a percentage of FTE. And then we'll look at benefits as a percentage of payroll. So it's more higher level tests, and we compare those over the last couple of years to see if there's any unusual fluctuations that we weren't expecting. And again, we can drill down into those a little bit further. But the analytical review procedures allow us to test high volumes of data at a higher level, and then we can drill down if needed. Confirmation of balances. This is a strong test that we do where we send third-party confirmations directly to financial institutions, and they confirm directly back to us the balances in your different bank and investment accounts. So now a completely electronic process, but that provides us with good information to verify the balances that are being reported on the district's books. We also do detailed transaction testing, and that's where we're selecting samples directly from your general ledger throughout the year, and then we request the supporting documentation for that. So we're looking for things like, are these expenditures properly classified? Are there cutoff issues? So we're just making sure that what's being reported in your financial system is adequately supported with the supporting documentation. Then we work on putting together the financial statements and the footnotes to make sure that those are all presented in accordance with the GASB requirements. So as a result of those audit procedures, there are 4 different reports or letters that we issue. The audit opinion, this is the main one. This is our independent auditor's report that goes in the front of the financial statements. And then we issue 3, our government audit standards report, and then 2 separate letters, our board communication audit conclusion letter, and then a separate management letter as well. So we'll go over the results of each of these. An auditor's report goes at the front of the financial statements. It's currently in draft form, but once we final the report, that'll be on our opinion. I sign the report. There are 4 different types of opinions that an auditor can provide: unmodified, qualified, adverse, or disclaimer. Unmodified is what you want, and that's what we have here. It's a clean opinion, says that the financial statements as presented are materially correct. So definitely good news there. Next report we issue is the government audit standards report. Now, because you're a governmental entity, you have to have your audit done in accordance with the Yellow Book, also known as government audit standards. The majority of the government audit standards are requirements that we as an accounting firm have to follow. We have to make sure that our staff are trained on governmental audits. We have to have a certain amount of professional education for everybody. There's different things that we have to have in our own internal control processes to be able to do governmental audits. The way that it affects you, though, is if during the course of the audit, if we identify any weaknesses in your controls that rise to the level of what we consider to be a material weakness or significant deficiency, they would get reported on this particular report in a prescribed schedule of findings. But as you can see, there were none of those or compliance exceptions. If we identify some other deficiencies and controls that we don't consider to rise to this level, we can report them in a separate management letter of manager report. And we do have 2 of those, and I'll go over those in a second. Audit conclusion letter. This is our final communication to the board. So in addition to our audit opinion, there's other things that we're required to communicate directly to you, and this letter accomplishes that. If there are any new accounting policies during the year, we're required to let you know. There was GASB 101, which is changed how compensated absences were being reported. That was new this year. The GASB seems to come out with a new statement almost every single year. They keep us on our toes, that's for sure. Also, we're required to let you know if there are any estimates in the financials. All financials have some sort of estimate, nothing unusual here. Just by the nature of these different accounts are considered to be an estimate. Depreciation is considered to be an estimate because it's an estimate of the useful lives of an asset. And then the net pension liability and net OPEB liabilities are reported on your financials. Those are derived from actuarial studies, so those are considered to be estimates. Again, nothing unusual there. If we had any difficulties in performing the audit, this would be our opportunity to let you know that. We didn't have any. An example of things we can put on there, if there were significant delays in us being able to obtain sufficient audit evidence that caused delays in reporting or delays in the audit, maybe it wouldn't ultimately affect the audit results, but this would be our opportunity to let you know that was the reason for delay. And again, there were none. And if we had any disagreements with management, we would let you know. There were none. The disagreements would be things like if there was a disagreement in accounting treatment, but again, nothing there. We did just have the one audit adjustment. So audit adjustments are at the beginning of the audit. We're provided with your books of record, essentially your general ledger as of 12/31 and for the whole year. If during the course of the audit we have to make any corrections, adjustments, that's considered to be an audit adjustment. This was actually a pretty minor one. It was a reclassification of cash, of negative cash. But it was, again, it's still reported as an audit adjustment, pretty minor. Okay, the next one, the management letter. I mentioned earlier that if we encounter any deficiencies in your internal controls that we consider to be major, in other words, they're classified as a material weakness or significant deficiency, they would get reported on that separate government audit standards report. We didn't have any of those. So we have 2 other items that are included on this management letter. The accounting for fully depreciated assets. What had happened there was several years ago, I think it was 2017, finance staff at the time chose to remove fully depreciated fixed assets from the asset listing. That's not technically correct. It has no net effect on the financial statements, but if the assets are still in use, they should still be retained on the books. Net book value 0, but they should still be on there. We encountered it this year because there were some assets that were traded in, and when we were looking for that on the detail of the fixed asset listing, they weren't there. So that's how that we encountered that this year. So finance staff are going to go through and do a full inventory of the fixed assets just to make sure that even if they're fully depreciated, that they're still being appropriately accounted for in the books. The other one we had was the review of the OPEB census data. So the OPEB is the other post-employment benefits, so essentially the health benefits for retirees. In order for the actuaries to do their calculation of that liability, the district provides them with a census data at the end of the year. We request that same information, and during our testing, we noticed that there were some minor differences between that one that we received and the one that was originally provided to the actuary. Nothing that really came about that's probably giving me material to the financials or anything, but we just recommend that a reconciliation be done to verify that those are the same. And then we had 2 recommendations in the prior year, and those were implemented during the current year. So overall, we have really excellent audit results. Unmodified opinion, definitely what you want there. Important to not have any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. And especially because it's not uncommon. You can still have an unmodified opinion for an agency and have material weaknesses. So an auditor can come in and clean up, do a whole lot of cleanup that could have material weaknesses. But in this case, there are none. Unmodified opinion again, no significant deficiencies, only had the one audit adjustment, which again was pretty minor. And one of the reasons audit adjustments are important, and this would also go to the material weakness, if the auditor had a bunch of audit adjustments, there could be a material weakness in your financial reporting. What that means is if you're part of an organization that when the auditor comes in at the end of the year, it has to book a lot of adjustments to clean up the financial records. As a board member, you may want to question the validity of the financial reports you were looking at throughout the entire year. So that's why that part's important too, just that one minor audit adjustment and then the two management letter comments. So definitely very good audit results. Stop sharing. I mean, I know Sandra's not there, but Catherine's there. I would like to thank Sandra, Catherine, the rest of the finance staff. They do an excellent job when you consider the amount of things that our audit team tests, the samples that we select, all the information that they provide us, even before we're even out in the field, to ultimately end up with audit results that are like this, or really speaks highly to the quality work that they do. And so we definitely appreciate their work in this audit process.
And I will mention one small change to the report itself is on page V of the draft document. There was a typo on the last bullet point, sort of midway down, where it referenced that basically the combined budget for 2024 for hydro and recreation were flopped.
Right.
So we're adjusting that to correct that. Now, Monica would love to have hydro's
I thought that.
budget,
Okay. I
although
was bummed out, so she.
our hydro division would be so enthusiastic of the recreation budget out.
Right.
But that's one change.
Right. So
Yeah,
board, we have comments, questions?
Yep. I got a quick one. Thank you for a lot of hard work. And my God, I mean, again, by July 1st, it's pretty spectacular compared to previous years. Well done. Capacity fees, I see we increased the capacity fees by 0.8 million. And what is the total? Somehow I didn't get to see the total amount of money we have in capacity fees.
Sure, we have that off the top of our head, do we? Catherine, we can bring that back if you need that.
I have the same.
Yeah, we can look that up, but I believe the capacity fees decreased. So,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, you know, we can't hear you. Maybe pull the mic
Sorry.
down.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I will have to look into that and get back to you, but I believe that they decreased from last year.
Decreased?
Yeah, decreased, not increased.
Because of the duophily or whatever.
I think it just had to do with the number of new
Okay.
connections. Yeah.
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 Just a connection.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Mhm.
You can report that. We can come offline.
Sure.
Yeah.
Get that back.
Yeah.
Perfect.
That it, Rich?
Yep.
For now?
Yeah, no.
Brad?
Nothing. Thank you. I have a question and a comment, but not necessarily for Justin, but for finance team. And that
Please.
was published in audit. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. And I'm always go straight to the graphs, right? On page 81 of the bold 81 is a graph of net position by component. And I know that the components are capital assets, restricted, unrestricted. In 2023, you can see a really red line, and then it turns to a big green line where it's been pretty steady. And I wondered if somebody could comment on that. I see we don't have the normal people here to comment on that. And
Yeah.
if that's a question I can bring up later with Sandra, with Unless you know the answer to that one.
I do not
Okay.
at the time.
It's just that little red dot, that little red box just really jumps out.
The restricted,
Yeah.
the restricted dollar amount.
What flipped in 2023 to 24?
Okay.
Because I have no clue of changes in our reserves of what happened at that time. On the next page,
Fair enough.
just it's noteworthy that our red line and our green line crossed over each other in 2022. And I know that we're already talking about water rate increases, and that's we all need to be looking at that red line.
Mhm.
It's problematic. And
Mhm.
I can go over with Jen or Sandra on this one too, what happened. I don't recall what happened in 2022. I know why we flatlined on the, we'll have a couple of clues. Anyway.
Okay.
Just a comment.
Okay. So you want a little more follow-up with those?
Yeah.
Sure.
I have one more.
Yes, please.
Oh, on Board of Directors, Division 5 Director, should be 1224 to 1228. And it's 1220 to 1224.
Where are you? Can you reference where you're looking? Please,
It's on the pictures.
Oh, on the pictures.
At the beginning?
Yeah. It's at the page are you on, Rich?
Yes. We've passed that date, haven't we?
Yeah.
All right.
All the director's pictures.
Got it.
Oh, where,
It's X, page X. It's the
Page
first few pages in the
director's.
original document. Sure.
Page 18. on the
Yes,
the
bold 8.
The bold 18, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. Rich is no longer with us.
We'll make that change. Director Johansson, good call.
Director Stevens, comments, questions? None. Okay. I have a couple of questions. I would like it if someone here would explain, for the purposes of the public especially, and you brought up the potential for rate increases. When we say our net position has increased, could someone define that? Because we're really not talking about profit or cash or reserves. We're talking about something else. But the way this is stated in our staff report would make someone, or could lead someone to believe that, you know,
Don't need that rate increases.
that we don't need rate
I think the
increases.
Same thing.
Did you? Okay, so I thought, well, you know, this will be a good time to ask that question. So is there someone who can? Thank you.
So your net position is basically your change in net assets, so your revenue and expenses. And if you look at it over the last, from 2015 to 2024, it's increased slightly. If you look, 2015 was 13 million.
Mhm.
2024 is 14, a little over 14. So it includes things like your capital contributions. So it's not just your revenue and expenses. So you're adding back. So if we have, say, a $15 million capital project in a year, that's in that calculation.
Mhm.
So over time, if you have, say, upcoming capital projects of $50 million, that's going to make a big difference in that net change. So you can't just look at your net position when you're thinking of rate increases.
Understood. I understand, but I really wanted, because a layperson would look at this and go, well, wait, you're asking for rate increases. You had an additional $14.9 million in 2024, right? I mean, I could see that would be a reasonable assumption from somebody.
Is that value that's been added, like the increase in our stock portfolio, that kind of stuff?
Well, it's pretty much everything. It includes every aspect of our financials. So that would be one
That'd be
one item. Yeah,
So the value of something had to go up in order for the net to go up, right?
exactly. Yeah.
But it also includes assets.
Mhm.
Well, that's what I was mostly
Right.
leaning
Not
on was
just cash.
the assets.
It's not just
It's the
cash,
value of the assets, property, buildings, equipment, everything
Exactly.
Increase
Increase in value.
property values,
Property value.
increase in
Mhm.
capital assets, like you say, they go into this. And so
Yeah.
it's a comprehensive look. It's not just that we've received $14 million more in revenue than.
Right, right.
And so therefore, we just want more. It's not
Right,
necessarily
right.
that.
Well, I know that, but I just wanted to have that open discussion here. For the
It's a really good
purposes of
point.
the Public,
It's a
yeah.
good differentiation. Yeah.
I think the biggest component of it is capital projects and how
Right.
much you have to put back into your infrastructure in order to continue to function. So,
Exactly.
And that's hydroelectric capital projects. That's
exactly.
water distribution operation projects. Yeah.
Then I have a couple other just notes. So, and maybe this would be for our account person or our auditor. So when you talk about purged assets and that little bit of difficulty from back in 2017, where are you? There you are. Hi. Could you explain what those purged assets are and their value or their valuation? Or was it so de minimis that it's not worth discussing?
Yeah, so the net value was zero. So what it was capital assets that had been fully depreciated. So
Ah,
so they had a net book value of zero because let's say you have a capital asset that was purchased, constructed, and it has a 20-year life.
mhm.
That asset gets reduced by 1/20th every year till it gets down to zero. For accounting purposes, you still want to keep that on your books, even though the net book value is zero, just so you have tracking of assets. Being a governmental entity, if you were to sell it, trade it in, and to follow the proper policy for that. So the net effect is still zero because they were fully depreciated. So putting those back on is still going to have a zero net effect. It's more of the tracking of those to make sure that you're keeping track of them in the inventory.
Okay, thank you. That was a good explanation. And then my final question has to do with the OPEB. And I just want us, because, okay, somewhere in all of this, it was 67% is our coverage.
I think at this point, we're around, the most recent actuarial report was around 80%
And
funded.
is that because we've established a trust?
That's part of the reason.
There is a trust.
There's a trust.
I know there's a trust, so because the report shows something less than 80%, it says 67 or
64 or something.
something like that. And so I wanted to have an explanation of just what it is,
I
as
would have to look
opposed
at
to
this.
what it says, because I know it's higher, but I can't figure out where you would see the higher
Where
number.
does it say in the report? Do you have that off the top of your head?
Page
God.
53. Page 50, not the PDF, but the actual page of the report is a schedule in the back.
We might have to make a correction on that based on the most recent presentation that was done.
Right, and that was
That might just be a typo. that-
December of 24.
Yeah.
Well, this is also, there is a year lag for this because this measure.
Understood, yeah.
So if you look on page 53, measurement
53, okay.
Report.
Is that bold?
73 of the PDF.
73 of the PDF, okay. It's quite confusing.
Is confusing.
Need more page numbers.
I know,
Roman-
2-page numbers.
Roman
are the
numerals.
problem.
you see.
When I look at the measurement period on page 53, I see for 2023, I see planned fiduciary net position as a percentage of total OPEB liability. For
Mhm.
2023, I see 82.5%. And then for 2024, I have 90.2%.
Hmm.
Maybe we're referencing
I think I
numbers,
was looking
maybe.
at something different then. And rather than take everyone's time, I'll go back and find it and
Yeah, why don't we take a look?
shoot it up to Greg.
Go
so that-
back and let's find it and see what you looked at.
Yeah, I'm
because
sorry I didn't tag it more plainly, but
I think we've reported just in the recent past, we're up into the 80s
Mm.
percentage
Hmm.
of our OPEB liabilities,
That's a
which
good-
is, which
yeah, no, it's a really, I knew it was much
Much
better than what I
advanced than
saw.
other other organizations of our similar size and nature. So it's, yeah, so I'd like to see what you. look
Yeah,
at.
I'll go back and find it and then we'll do this offline. So I'm
Okay.
not taking
That
time.
sounds just
Can
fine.
I tag on to that?
Yes,
quickly?
please.
So, we get affected, this is not part of the report, but we get affected by how well the state does.
That plays into,
And how did the state do last year?
you know, I believe that they met their, I'd have to check on that though. I believe that for OPEB, they met it. Because they make an estimate and then they have to meet their estimate.
Right. And then if they meet their estimate, we don't get a charge as much.
I mean, that plays into the whole actuarial
Right.
report.
Are you talking about
But
state?
it's not the only factor.
State government.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
CalPERS, or is it CalPERS?
and they didn't take any of that money for any other project.
I don't think so.
No, I didn't.
Trust, so.
Not on you.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I think part of the reason that we put that in a trust was to kind of shield it to some degree.
Yeah.
Am I remembering?
I don't recall the exact, but it's
But it helps.
our funds sitting for
Our
us.
funds, yes. Okay,
Correct.
that's kind of what I like that.
I find more interesting on that subject is comparing other municipalities.
Yes,
So that's a big one.
yeah, I know. We're doing, I think,
Pretty
a
good.
really great job
Pretty
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
No,
with our
thank you.
OPEB
We're still
liability.
trying to get to 50%. So being anything above 50% is really good.
Right.
Good job.
Yes, great job. Thank you so much. I think I am done with my questions. Anybody else have comment?
Just congratulations again.
Yeah, you guys are awesome.
And again, another thank you to our
Hey,
team.
Team has been fantastic.
team.
When I spoke to the auditors, they told me that we had uploaded over 800 documents. So that's a lot of documents to go through and to upload, and everyone played a big.
That's a lot of work. Thank you so much. Thank you, each one of you. Okay, with that, we'll open up for public comment on our audit. Is there anyone out there either electronically or here that would like to make a comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment. And is this receive and file or what?
Even
Yeah.
publish. Yeah.
Receive and publish. Okay, do we need a motion to publish?
yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll look for a motion to receive and publish
Minor adjustments.
with minor adjustments. Thank you.
I'm going to move to receive and publish the annual comprehensive financial report 2024 with minor adjustments.
Second.
We have a motion second. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Division 5,
Yes.
Division 4,
Yes.
Division 3, Division 3,
Oh, aye. I'm sorry.
Division 2,
Aye.
Division 1.
Yes.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you, everyone. Wonderful, wonderful work.
Yes, thank
I
you.
really have to give you an applause. That is just such a heavy lift. I mean, we've had, some of us here have had the audits come in, a year late.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you guys are awesome. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I've lost my agenda through all this.
Or C.
We're going to.
Okay, there we go. All right.
see.
No, I don't need a break. I got it now.
No
Thank you.
breaks.
No breaks. I know, in honor of Jennifer, no breaks. Okay, item 4C, NID main building entrance and side ramp replacements project. Who is going to take this item? Well, hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. Gabe Arno, Director of Engineering. All right, this item is related to replacing the existing entrance ramps and stairs to the building. If you read the item here, some of these were built in 1965 and others in 85, so they're 60 and 40 years old. And when you come into the business center, maybe you've observed that they're aesthetically corroded and looking rough and tarnished on those main stairs. If you come in the director's entrance here, you see a nice new ramp, and so you might not really be thinking about this project. But fundamentally, the ask before you is for budget and budget amendment and approval to replace these aged ramps to the east and central to the building, stairs and ramps. They're structurally deficient. There's corrosion and material loss underneath, spalled concrete. And when you look at this, you'll see that the bid here is over $1 million. That's pretty significant for ramps and stairs. That was my first take. What are we doing? You can build an amazing home for that. But if you get underneath, there's substantial structural decay in the concrete and the metal. And so it's a full replacement, and it's all going to be ADA compliant. So anyway, that's the project. And the ask is to transfer some funds from one budget to augment the bid here, which we got one bid. I'll go back a little bit. We got one bid.
Yeah, I was wondering that. Thanks.
Yes, one bid from Mark Wallace Masonry, who did the existing or the new ramp that you guys all use and looks good. So we like their work. And my first question was, should we rebid it, change it, postpone it? Where's the value here? Because I didn't know about the project. We got the bids, engineering brought it to me, and I had to scratch my head. What's the right answer? And after having kind of explored it myself, you'll see that the east ramp is supported underneath. You might not know it, but from underneath on 2x4s and 4x4s and post and wood shims.
Oh, my.
And so it's underneath, it's deteriorated. And when I think about this being the front of house and a potential safety issue, I said, well, it looks like we need to do it. And that's why it's before you now, even at this price, which is significantly more than the original budget, but it is what it is. So how do I do this exactly? Should I read these points and then you discuss them, or what's the?
I think you can just ask for maybe
We
if
grill
want-
you.
want
Yeah, we get,
questions.
yeah, we will
They
just
get to
ask
pepper you,
questions and make
done well
comments.
enough.
I will do my best to answer questions. I
Okay.
inherited this from my predecessor and then
Right.
Adrian, who also carried the ball.
Right. Okay. Questions from the board? Discussion?
So we're going to postpone the charging stations or just eliminate them?
Great question. No, we have to do it. I've poked at that too, because that's another expensive program that's coming down to us. But so there's charging station budget for 2025, but given the long lead time for PG&E to actually receive and process an application for a dedicated charging service, electrical drop, it won't be completed in 2025. So we still need to do it, but that budget is not going to be spent in 2025.
So
That's
Briar Patch just put a few in. Why don't we just take our vehicles over there? I mean, they'd love the
Free coffee?
business. Huh?
While we're charging?
I.e. go in a shop and do whatever you want. I mean, so this is a very fluid area that the state and the feds are not in eye to eye on. And could this go away in the future?
Well, the item before
Anybody's
us though
guess.
is
That's a different,
that's a different
Discussion.
discussion. And the item
We're not
before us
really-
is the construction contract for the front of the,
what we're doing, Rich, is we're moving money out of that
right.
budget for this year to do any more work. This amount of work.
I get it. I
We do
just,
get another shot at that.
Yeah,
But
we'll have another shot.
We'll have another shot at the
And-
electric
and-
vehicle charges.
and be aware, I'll take all the shots I get.
Okay.
So I got a second one. Isn't an elevator cheaper?
Gosh.
Well, so I don't know the answer to that, but then that would involve decommissioning the upper ramps and stairs and having everybody come in downstairs and taking an elevator up and down.
Yeah.
I,
Answer. No, it's not.
Yeah.
cheap.
I don't
I
know.
don't
I
have the
doubt it.
answer to that. That's why I
No.
asked.
No, I said, but I do, and I know it's not cheaper.
Really?
Yeah, having done some of those in my career, I know it's not cheaper. Sorry.
You're talking something for the general public
Mm-hmm.
that accesses daily, 5 days a week,
Located outside.
located in the exterior of the
Yeah.
building,
Sounds like a Marriott in
glass
Atlanta.
closed.
Yeah.
No,
It'd be difficult.
Do my farmer guess, it would be cheaper initially, but maintaining an elevator over time might be,
okay.
keep it working might be a
Well,
problem.
I'm glad you brought that up because,
Speaking of maintenance,
Yeah.
yeah, the
Okay.
maintenance is expensive.
Mhm.
Stairs are what our engineering department and staff have defined as a replacement of our existing.
Yeah, I know.
And then the ramp.
And
We still
ramps.
have the
And
accessible
exactly,
ramp.
and the ramp.
Yes.
And this will come out later, but I'm all in favor of doing something doesn't have a whole lot of operation and maintenance costs later.
Right.
Stairs are
Which is
pretty
what
good at
stairs
that.
are,
Which are,
Stairs are pretty good.
as opposed to an elevator.
and water treatment plants versus pipelines.
Joke.
That was
Glad
an
you- I'm
editorial.
glad you guys.
I know, I'm hearing.
Glad you made all the points.
And
Point of
we'll
order.
ask Director Stevens if he has comment or question. How's that?
I have a couple, if you don't mind. This does seem like a lot of money. I went and I looked at the structures and they're sad, I agree. And they're in desperate need of repair or replacement. I'm wondering if we could not simplify the number of ramps, the number of stairways, the access points. Does ADA not allow it to happen, or is it that we're set on this number of entrances, this number of areas that we have people walking underneath, et cetera, that could simplify this whole operation?
I asked that question too. I didn't get, I didn't get an answer. So I'm not sure on that. But just operationally, we could just eliminate, say, the operational entrance, and that would mean that ADA compliance has to all come through the main entrance and go down the building. I don't know if there's a requirement for ramps within a certain frequency. So the central stairs and ramp down to where I live, engineering, we could potentially eliminate one of those entrances.
Do they have
I-
to be, do they have to be ADA compliant to go down to?
No, they're staff only.
What?
They're just for staff. That's not.
Right, that's
Well,
my question.
But there is ADA compliant, I believe, access through down the road. You could kind
There
of
is.
wheel down the road and come in a lower entrance. You wouldn't have to go down the stairs.
Well, I think that's a great question because we already have a brand new ADA ramp out here, right? Approved ramp.
Right?
It would be a hassle for the staff to escort somebody through up that ramp.
You're talking a full.
It's also security.
We have looked at, in the past, there has been a look at different ways to extend the front facade of the building out towards the parking lot. 'Cause there is that gap between the two. That is a whole different building remodel, which would be a lot more expensive than this. This was, keeping like for like, as for as, and really not trying to reconfigure the ingress and egress of staff and public. And so by eliminating a particular entrance is going to affect, probably it'll have unknown consequences that we don't really know for not a lot of price savings, I think.
I know that if we were to do the expansion, then we enter the world of sprinklers and all.
Yeah, we don't want to do anything like
That becomes
It's not necessary either we have plenty of space in this building. The concept of that was to potentially think that we would need a lot more space for staff, but we're not needing that at the moment.
in the world of the unknown, people bid high. Is there any way that we could add additional information or something? I mean, they may have bid high because they don't know what the connection to the building would be as they bring the connections in. And so they're assuming something. I don't know if we could provide some additional information that would allow the bid to be reduced. That we discussed this with Mark Wallace and said, gone through his bid and said, what was your concerns? And they said, well, we're not sure if the front of the building is going to collapse, and therefore we put in extra money to rebuild the whole front of the building. I don't know. And then we go out there and we say, hey, we've tested it. It's sound. Is there a way that we could do something like that to reduce the bid cost, or is it on existing stuff?
My understanding is that they have a pretty good understanding of the existing conditions and what they're contending with. They spent a few months on the new ramp here to the east. And, I asked that too, what can we do? It seems exorbitant for stairs and ramps, but everything seems that way to me these days. So my sense is that we should do it, and the functionality is there already that's working for the public and the operations team to the east, engineering down below. I mean, we could come down around below and it would just kind of be more traffic through the front. I came to the place that we should do it. That's where I landed.
Is there a phasing aspect? Because if they're worried about people, having to put shoring or false work so that people don't get hit in the head by whatever, and we have to reroute people, is there a phasing approach that we could do to make it cheaper? Phasing is usually more expensive, but if they're worried about public safety maybe the phasing would bring the cost down.
I think you said it right the first time. It'll make it more expensive. And the construction's going to be cumbersome for us, right? We're going to lose some entrances, and temporarily we're going to route more people around the remaining entrances. There'll be some screening. We're going to lose a couple parking places for construction staging. I asked, hey, what if we just bid one at a time, do one a year? And basically the price is just going to be higher. It'll be higher next year, and you'll also incur additional mobilization and demobilization cost each time you implement a phase. I wanted it cheaper too, I promise.
I understand. I'm just.
Yeah, good questions.
As far as access goes, if we come in the main entrance here, right now we have employees only coming down here. Are we gonna have to escort people through? Are we gonna be putting corridors in?
We're going to change the access for the public is going to be out this main door here. So this will be the customer service zone, and we're going to have to put up a false wall. Essentially, it'll be a barrier so the public can't enter past the main entrance lobby, nor even to the restrooms. And so during regular days, the non-board meeting days, those will be on, people will access that. We'll have cashiering right here sitting at the counter. But that will be our public access for the duration of the project.
3 months, maybe.
That was my question, is how long will this be? 3 months? And when does it begin?
Oh, good question. When does it begin?
Well, we're approving the contract today.
Yeah.
Understood. If we approve the contract, when would the construction start and when would it be complete in the best case?
That's a great question. I didn't play that out. I imagine that if we approve the contract in the next couple of weeks, Jennifer signs, they could probably get organized and mobilized in a month and then start the work into the fall.
So it'll be done before winter.
We want to get it done before winter.
I got it.
Yes.
But it's about a 3-month construction.
I think it's about a 3-month construction, and I would wager that it's going to end up being 4. Just
That's the way it always goes,
that's,
right?
that's,
About construction.
yeah.
Are you done, Director?
I'm done.
Fields? I'm sorry. Director Fowler.
So yeah, Earl, to Earl's comment that it seems like a lot of money, it's because it is a lot of money.
It is.
And I have a couple questions that actually Earl ticked on that I'm trying to think if this was my ranch, or this is my enterprise, would I spend money like that? And I don't think I would. I'd figure out another option. So it's really easy to spend other people's money. If it's over $1 million, and it's easy to spend the money. And I'm wondering if there aren't other alternatives that maybe we could explore. The temporary thing, I understand that that's not ideal, but maybe that could be, I would like to explore some other stuff before we dive into that. And I don't have any questions about their competency or anything like that, but it's a lot of money. And then my comment is that the issue is spalling and corrosion. And so that means that historically it has not been maintained, because spalling is something that we can address. We can prevent spalling if we go back 20 years or to whenever those was. So this all could have been avoided with a couple of cans of paint every other year. So that's disappointing. And I can't point fingers at anybody. It's just a thing that happened that got overlooked. But at a cost of a couple $100 a year, we could have prevented this whole project, and those stairs could have lasted all of our lifetimes. But because it wasn't maintained, because it wasn't on somebody's checklist, and it's nobody's fault, but concrete and iron stairs can last forever if they're painted, right? If we take care of problems as they arise. And so now we're in this situation where we have to spend over $1 million to replace them. It's just silly. That doesn't happen in private industry. That only happens in government. That is my comment. Thank you. And I appreciate your recommendation on it.
Director Beerwagen, comment?
No questions.
No questions.
So
I do have one comment, and that is, to you guys' points. And yeah, $1 million is a crazy amount of money for a stairway, for sure. But I'm wondering, given that we're a public agency and not a private ranch, as you drew the comparison,
And I appreciate that.
you know, and the numbers of people, that are we held to a higher standard? I mean, is that having to be built, say, to a different standard than if it were on someone's home or even just a retail business, for instance, because of the numbers of people that we have coming? No.
No, we're held to code compliance. We're held to prevailing wage. We're
Right.
held to,
Well, the prevailing wage could also.
we're held,
It certainly does.
we're held to a standard of health and safety for the community of which they operate.
Of course,
this building
yeah.
and our staff.
Right.
And Director Fowler, for sure, your comment is well taken. And the historical maintenance over a 60-year period or 40-year period, sure, that could have been perhaps prevented to some degree. But nonetheless, here we are. We've taken a look at this thing, and we've looked at it for the last couple years, and it needs to be taken care of.
Yeah, it does.
Period. And I think we're of the mindset that yes, like as Gabe indicated, that it is a bit of a shock for the cost. However, I was trying to think about, and I don't have that number off the top of my head, but we just repaired this outside original ramp, and I don't know what the cost.
It was a
there
lot.
It was a lot. So I mean, not that that ramp is comparable to what we're doing, a full stairwell, and don't forget that there is a ramp associated with it as well. And we're gonna have to take care of some of the parking spaces. So some of the parking lot has to be redone as well. So there are a lot of little things that add up to a big thing. And so it's not just the stairs, it's a multitude, it's phased, it's a number of things in one big project. So I will leave you with that. I mean, obviously it's a lot of money and definitely we understand that, but this is something that minus whatever maintenance had been done over the years,
We can't fix that, and I
it is
understand that.
now at a point where it needs.
Gabe, can I put you on the spot for a second? We know that.
Go ahead.
Your knowledge and memory of the UBC, Uniform Building Code. Does this building qualify at the higher level, such as schools, fire hydrant, fire stations?
I don't think so. It's only 2-story, public access, public office, commercial work.
That would seriously increase the price. It had to be one of that higher protected.
Right. To my knowledge, it doesn't. I didn't look that up. I will share that when this one bid was turned in to Adrian, Mark Wallace knows Adrian from the previous ramp project. He said, "Hey, I think you're going to be shocked by my bid. I probably won't win, but I can't get it any lower." So on the contractor side, they were sweating the number too, and they're buying materials and labor and equipment. I don't know if that helps swallow the pill, the medicine, but it's still $1.1 million here.
I'm just going to reiterate the comment before is that I've been on many projects where there's an unknown and they had to say, should we do it this way or this way based on this unknown. If you can eliminate that unknown, also the cost drop. I was just hoping there was an unknown in here that you could answer for them to drop that price.
That's unknown to me.
Well, I think the unknown is in that 10% contingency for
Yeah.
change orders.
I hope so, but I mean, there's lots of projects that they're going to go in, they're going to blast, or do they have to blast or can they rip?
Right.
And they bid it to have to blast, which is more expensive. And they find out they can rip and it's much cheaper. So if you just simply do a geophysical study, tell them it can be ripped, the price drops in half. So I was just hoping there was something like that in this.
We have our inspectors assessing all of our capital projects. This one happens to be extremely easy because it's right in our front door. And we'll be there watching them quite often, I think, and reviewing clearly the request for invoices and understanding where we are on a daily basis as opposed to, some other project that's 4 hours away, right? More weekly. So to that degree, I think our staff, clearly our engineers and our inspectors will be watching and hopefully maybe making recommendations when something comes apart. We say, maybe we can fix it this way and it might be a little more cost effective.
The other assumption that may be in there, I'm sorry,
It's okay.
is that they assume that they have to bus people from a new ADA spot because they're taking that for construction. And they've got
Us?
You know, let's say that for their staging ground, they have to take all the ADA spots. So we have to have.
Okay, I hear what you
You
said.
know what I mean? I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
know
yeah,
if
yeah.
there's an unknown in there that could drop the price. That's
You
all
would
I'm
like to
asking.
know.
Yeah.
Well, that was where I was headed, actually, building off of this, is that I would have been, it would be nice to see like the scope of work and the, because you mentioned the parking lot. Well, how much is that of the component of the whole? And how much is the demo as a component of the whole? And see it broken down a little bit. Now, I'm fine with what we've got here because I know, the history, I know this has been being worked on for a long time. And yeah, it's too much money to spend, but I also know we have to do prevailing wage and so on. And so we get kind of hit as a public agency. But I would think for something like this, where we have essentially a sole source contract, I'd like to see what the scope of work and the corresponding numbers are. Because it would be a bummer if they came back and said, oh, you said you wanted the parking lot? Well, we didn't really think about the parking lot.
That's my question.
Well,
I mean, you just,
I trust our engineering staff has been, it's just not in this report.
Right.
The scope.
I get it, but I'm just saying, since we're looking at it to make a decision, it would be helpful to have a little bit more, have the scope of work and the numbers so that, we could all see just why it's so much and what it is including. But I'm fine with what this is.
Considering that this was 600,000
Yeah.
to do this little bit, and this is only twice that, and it's probably 4 times the amount of work. I'm just,
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
You know.
And this was also bid out, 2 years ago or 3 years ago?
As
know,
it is
Yeah.
itself.
Before things went completely wacko in terms of inflation and all of that stuff. So,
Well, inflation is down right now, but
No, but-
let's,
Prices stayed.
no, but I'm just saying,
price stayed.
the 600,000 was done before things went completely crazy. And anyway,
So I'm in favor to table this for 2 weeks to get some of these answers. I also, other questions I have, as a public building, we have to have ADA compliance. Where are our ADA compliant bathrooms? Are they right there?
Rich, that's not part of this project.
Well, it is if you're designing a ramp
we're
that
designing-
doesn't go near them.
well, it's an
Not-
exterior ramp.
You're not touching the bathrooms on
We're
this
not-
project.
No, I understand that, but we have them. And all I'm saying is that, how many ADA people do we have that need that ramp on
It
a
doesn't-
daily or weekly basis?
It does not matter. If one
I mean,
a year, we
yeah,
need
but
to have it.
Boy, that's not the point. One a year, we can walk them through.
No, I'm
to
just
the-
saying
to
that from
customer
the
service.
law and all that stuff, it doesn't matter how
That's
many
my
people you
point.
have.
That was my
Yeah.
point about eliminating. Can I go?
Yes, please.
I have a question. Sorry, Gabe. You're getting grilled. So
Huh.
my question concerns, as a 10% contingency proposed to cover any change orders, because we just went through another project where we had a bunch of change orders and a lawsuit and all that stuff. And we were undone by all of that. I was, having not done that before. Is that question clear?
Well, you're asking if, is the 10% for change orders?
Yes, is it?
That is what it's for, unknowns that come up, change conditions, or just something we want to change on the fly that's under the threshold that we need to bring it back to you, but we can implement, it's a little allowance for that.
And then if it goes over the 10%, which this stuff can do, right?
We have to bring it back to you.
Have to bring it back to us. Yeah. Okay.
I'll just say, we typically don't include a full project scope in a project review and a request for contract. It's
Understood.
typically our staff has done a thorough job. They have
Right.
analyzed it. They have gone through. It is not a sole source. We have sent it out to 2 different contractors.
Oh, we did. I
as
did
well
not
as the
hear
Nevada
that or
County
understood
contractor.
that.
Yeah.
We just got one bid, only one of them.
Oh, we got
Received
one
one
bid.
bid.
But we did send it out.
We have met all of our, we have met all of our procurement responsibilities. So it's technically not a sole source.
Okay, thank you. I stand corrected.
Typically, just to let you know, we don't normally include a full scope
Mhm.
of tasks by tasks to a project. So the request is a little,
Well, it's
is a little
like
off.
demo, I mean, I'm not talking about, it's like, what is the demo? What is the reconstruction? What is the
Mhm.
material cost?
We do have all that, and it's broken out by each stair, each ramp,
Oh, God,
new
so we
work,
didn't want
demo
that
work.
level of detail.
You do not want to see.
No, I don't want to see that.
But it was provided and looked at and
See, I trust staff, I trust staff and I know that this is a big number, but ultimately I would support doing this. I don't know that pushing this down the road a couple of weeks. What do you think?
I think if we push it down the road, we're pushing further into the later months of the year, which this whole project is outside.
Okay,
Right.
I appreciate the fact that, you stood up there and said, I'm here to be grilled, so I'm sorry, but I did.
Oh, the questions are welcome and I'll do my best.
I had some blunt questions for you. You've answered them. I appreciate that also. The fact that it was 600,000 to do this, that, and then 1.2 to do this. Okay, you start weighing that around. My only concern is that we are sure we can lock this contract in and get it done within the time frame. And it's not, okay, yeah, thanks for the contract. We'll see you in 2027.
I didn't ask that question, but I know that contractors eager to do the work and did good work before and delivered on their schedule before. Is that true, Greg?
I believe it is.
Okay, so I'm concerned that it's not, it was into their queue and that,
We're at the end.
yeah, we're at the end.
This is a
Yes.
local, from what I understand, he's a local contractor here in,
They're out of Auburn, right?
yeah. So it's not a big conglomerate that's got, projects in LA and San Diego and
But I also-
elsewhere where we're getting the B or C squad.
Everybody that's qualified, everybody that's competent is busy.
Hey, Dustin, do our contracts have a, start end dates and some performance dates? There we go.
Yes,
Performance
it
dates.
does. And there will be a notice to proceed
Mm-hmm.
officially sent once the contract's executed.
Got
and
it,
There's
okay.
a time period by which there's a notice,
That's helpful.
completion process. And so, yes.
I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the request for proposal, we do stipulate whether or not the contractor is capable to perform the work right away.
That would be typical.
That would be typical. I haven't seen this
I
RFP,
haven't either.
but typically we ask them specifically, do you have the capability to work right away? And if they say no, that's usually,
Not only, let me expand.
Yeah.
Not only is time of the essence usually in our bid and our contract document, but there's also a season that we typically would define.
Uh-huh.
So again, I haven't seen it, but that would be our customary approach.
Yeah, great. Well, it would seem like we can cover ourselves by having performance dates.
Yes.
And I have to come up to speed on the NID contracts, but there's usually, with the contracts I'm familiar with, a liquidated damage for being
Mhm.
late.
Right.
Right.
Yes, thank you.
So I still have the question, how many ADA compliant ramps do we need to be compliant?
this side that we're talking about for this contract is our business center side where public access our business center to make
Mhm.
bills and make payments. This side is typically for our
Understood.
board meetings only. We do not accept public down to this side. We tell them to go the other way.
So I'm speculating, Director Johansson, but I believe the answer is one for your public/employees. But the problem I'm hearing is in order to use the existing one you have, you would need a comprehensive remodel to shift public to this side permanently. And, so.
And you'd still have to
speculating.
take care of the stairs.
Right.
Right.
I'm just trying to minimize this project a little bit.
Right.
It's a lot of money.
I think we're stuck. That's what I think.
And I think we're getting every ramp, everything we want down there and still have it here. And
Well, you have two public accesses
Mhm.
currently, right? You have the business center and then you have this boardroom.
and for our operations, that works well.
And what I hear you proposing or contemplating is collapsing that to one, but the logistics of doing that requires some kind of remodel, I believe. Because you now have to use one point of access for both public boardroom and public business center. So
The logistics, the internal workings of this building
Yeah.
really don't,
I get it. the remodel,
qualify
the
for.
remodel's not cheap.
More money.
Right.
Yeah.
To redo the interior of this building to allow for public to be down here and then for payments to be made down there and adjust maybe payments down here and then access to the boardroom. It's a different thought that has not been contemplated, nor do I think is effective.
Any other comment, Brad?
Yeah, so assuming that this, perhaps it goes through or not, or maybe we stall it for a couple of weeks, but I'd just like an assurance that somebody, we could put in a budget line item for a couple cans of paint so we don't do this again in 40. So we don't do this again in 40 years. Yes, sir, absolutely.
I appreciate the thought and the concern that it wasn't maintained. What I will tell you is that because they are public access points, they're on the north side of the building, they freeze over, they ice over. We have to salt the heck out of those things during the winter months. That salt permeates through the concrete and is rotting the steel underneath.
Mm-hmm.
So that has been a problem. We paint these on a very regular basis. I will say the new plan, I believe, has heated concrete in it. We will no longer have to do that. It will keep the ice off of the stairs, it'll keep it off the concrete, and no more salt going through and corroding things. So that's, fingers crossed, that's the goal.
Chip, is
Are the stairs,
is that electrical heat or is that
Electrical heat.
are the stairs proposed to be steel again?
Yeah,
know?
one lawsuit is,
I believe they're concrete.
Concrete. Okay.
So with electrical heat in there, that is, we got to jack the price too, because that good information to have, yeah. Radiant barrier, coils.
Well, presumably it's within the bid that we're looking at.
Yes.
It is in there and it was a line item and it does cost money.
Yeah, it does cost money.
life expectancy of a heating unit is 30, 40 years, 50.
I imagine the heating elements that are embedded in the concrete will last as long as the concrete, 100 years, 75 years. The little driver, the mechanism that it puts the heat into the coils might have to be replaced.
Saves
20
a-
years, 25.
One lawsuit, we're
Yeah,
in good shape.
we're bucks up. as-
My understanding of electrical radiant heat, and I'm not an expert on this, is that they're good forever unless you have differential shift and they use several line. Then.
Right.
So as long as we don't have cracking and settlement, we should be fine with it.
Are we ready for a motion?
Comment?
Oh, well, yes, thank you very much. Public comment. Is there anyone here in the room or in the virtual room would like to make a comment? Seeing none, I'll close public comment and ask the board if they're ready to make a motion.
I will make a motion, but I don't know how to make the motion here. There's too much.
We are adopting resolution number 2025-35.
Okay, I'll make a motion to adopt motion. Where do I see that number?
It's right here.
Page 3.
Page-
Here, Earl.
Okay, I'm sorry. There we go. I got it.
Okay.
Sorry, I make a motion to adopt resolution 2025-35.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Secretary, call the roll, please.
Yeah. Colin.
Division 5,
A lot of
Division
money.
5.
Please wait.
No, I know.
Well, maybe you could come back to Division 5.
No,
There you go.
No. I get my time.
No, I know,
A
but-
point of pause is worth a couple, 1,000 words. I like the idea it's going to be heated. So yes,
Division 4,
Yes.
Division 3,
Aye.
Division 2,
Aye.
Division 1.
Yes, thank you, Gabe.
Thank you, Gabe.
Thank you for
Indulging
the
us.
the dialogue.
and
Healthy.
Thank you.
Thank you for the grilling.
Like to take a seat?
what,
If you don't get to go anywhere, you have the
No, I
next
have-
item as well.
Have the next one.
Okay,
wait until
Moving-
you bring back the charging stations.
okay. Moving forward, item 4D, Rollins Powerhouse Governor Replacement Project. Is that you, Gabe?
It's me along with the next one too. So
You can
I'm not a hydro person. I can't speak to exactly what the technical elements are in this project, but this governor is aged and in need of
Mhm.
replacement. And you don't just go buy one off the shelf and pay for it and install it. It's custom designed and built. And so this was put out to, for an RFP, and LNS won what we call a design build
Mhm.
project. If you don't know what that is, I'm happy to explain it, but there's an element where they're designing the improvement, the governor and its installation, and then they're going to also provide the materials and equipment and do the installation. And so through the course of the design of this governor improvement, at 30%, this staff and LNS identified some potential changes to what they were already laying out and had already bid. And some additional spare parts that the district might want at the end of the project to have on the shelf so that it's, to maintain it in perpetuity, within reason. And so in identifying those changes, that's what we're bringing here before you. They identified some new screen and materials and spare parts. They exceeded our 10% contingency that we talked about on the last project for this function. And in this case, this is pretty typical for design build. You don't have a fully vetted design when you bid the work. And so things come up, and some of them, they're really district elective additions and requests exceed that 10% budget. And so that's what we're bringing it back to you for. And in addition, in this total, I think it's $46,000. There's a replenishment of a contingency fund. So we're at 30%. I think they're about to submit 60%, and we're not done yet. We have to get to 100 and they have to build it. So the 46 includes the design changes, spare parts, and new contingency funds.
Do we know if there's any other changes coming, or this is it?
Well, that's why we're restoring the additional contingency. We don't know, but there are none that we're aware of.
And it looks like we're gonna hit it on the next item too. This budgetary creep, for lack of a better, I think that's actually appropriate.
Yeah.
Like that we just add 10% and we add 10% and then we steal from this other project and then we just throw another $600,000 at something. I would just like to, I have to operate inside of my own budget. I'm discouraged when I see budgetary creep like this, and I just wish that we could not do that. But I understand the need for it, and I understand that NID has put the requirements on ourselves for this, and I appreciate your work on it.
I would have proposed on a project like this that going out of the gate with a design build project, we have a higher contingency going in, recognizing that it's undefined when they bid it. But it was 10 because I think that's kind of our standard.
So it's great if we budget more and then we come in under the budget instead of having these asks. So that's something, and I understand that you inherited a lot of this too, but
This one's been going on for
This is,
years.
yeah, this has been
This
a
one's
long time coming.
So Brad, you think if we budgeted high, it's going to come under? Just want clarification.
you know what? That's a good point, Rich. Thank you. It's just, everybody's happy when you come in under budget on a project. But thank you.
One option here is we don't restore the contingency, and then when there's a change, we're back here.
Can we do a CC Myers and somebody comes under budget and have that in the contract and we give them a bonus?
Oh, for timeliness or?
Can't do that. It's a public fund gift or something.
Legal issues.
Yeah, I think there's legal.
How'd he get away with it?
Yeah, Caltrans did projects like that.
Because well,
It was all,
this is
a lot of Caltrans.
do you have questions, Director Veerwater? Okay.
I agree.
Director Stevens?
Agree with Brad. It's a new term.
Director Stevens, do you have questions that you want to talk about?
I just have one comment in here, for future, on bullet number 2 on the recommendations. I had a hard time figuring out how a 10% contingency could take something from 29.9 to 46.4. Then I realized we're discussing a contingency, 10% contingency of a different number.
Right.
It took me a few moments, so. But other than that, I really don't have any questions.
Okay, thank you. Director,
Oh,
Rich?
I,
You already said your
yep.
piece? Okay, and I have no questions. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, close public comment. We're ready for a motion.
Madam President, I'll make a motion.
I'll
that
second.
We,
Let's wait for the motion.
I thought her, sorry.
we We approve resolution number 2025-36, amending the fiscal year 2025 capital budget and approve change orders for the Rollins Powerhouse Governor Replacement Project.
Thank you.
2392.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Director Stevens. Thank you very much. Please call the roll.
Division 5,
Yes.
Division 4,
Yes.
Division 3,
Aye.
Division 2,
Aye.
Division 1.
Yes, thank you.
Hmm.
Okay. Next item, 4E, contract for the French Dam hydraulic line replacement and inlet gate actuator refurbishment project.
Okay, me again. This project is for, if, I assume you read it, but it's basically a hydraulic operator that runs a gate that controls the low-level outlet of this dam. It's been failing over time. They did some work a few years ago to restore some of the hydraulic tubing down there, but now the suspicion, it's been becoming harder and harder to operate, takes longer and more energy, and so it still operates, but it's failing. And so this project is to dive, inspect it, confirm some dimensions, and then remove and rebuild this operator. No, we're not going to remove it. That was the first idea. This idea changed. Develop a new operator, and then next year install the new operator. So the ask is to approve a bid to AUS for it's $110,000 to dive this year and do the install next year.
Mhm. Great.
And
Comments,
This is
questions?
just for the dive part.
no, this is the whole thing.
That's the whole thing. I guess I didn't read that correctly.
I hope I'm answering you.
Director Stevens has some questions.
Basically, we're have a set of valves and a set of pumps upstairs, whether they're hand pumps or whatever, coming down hydraulic lines to open and close the valve, correct?
Correct.
Are those lines double walled?
I don't know the answer to that, but I know that they leak, and that's part of the failure. And they were replaced, so they don't leak now, but they did leak, and you could see an oil sheen on the water, and so they're probably not double walled.
Well, I mean, the new ones going in, are they going to be double walled?
So we're not installing new lines with this project. This is just the operator. The lines were replaced a couple years ago.
So the lines leak currently, which makes a violation of our SPCCs and all the other stuff, correct?
Okay, so I hope that I'm speaking correctly. Again, there's another one I'm speaking for that I wasn't directly involved in. The operator is what is believed to be failing now because the lines are thought to be good.
So the lines are good, but we're down below is what's leaking.
Yes, yes,
We're going to replace what's down below.
correct.
Okay. So I'm a redundancy type of guy. Is there any reason or need to put in an additional line as we're going down, just so we have it for later in case something else fails? You know what I mean? Just to make sure we don't have to do something again.
That wasn't recommended to me, and just surmising on the fly here, I think that if we ran some additional hydraulic lines down from the, above waterline pump down to the below grade operator, you would still have to dive again and connect them up. They'd be in place. That might be a convenience, but that's not the current recommendation.
So we're not sure if they're double walled at this point. Is that going to be a requirement now or in the future that they are?
I don't know that.
That would be a question for Peter.
Questions?
It would. I don't know the details of the operator itself or the hydraulic lines.
Along with that, how hard are the lines to be put in? It may just be drop them in and,
I don't think they're hard. I think that the complexity is the dive
right.
and the mobilization, and then doing the dive when the water's low, so they're not at great depth, which incurs additional cost and risks.
So if we lose the gates, we lose the operational ability to operate that dam. And so it seems pretty critical.
I agree, and yet most dams have one low-level outlet with a gate on it, and they don't have redundancy at the bottom. They might have intermediate water level gates, but there's one at each location, unless it's a substantial dam with lots of volume and you have multiple gates at each water level. This one has one.
So we can take this out of the charging stations too.
Hey, I'll point out, if you look at the second page of the report, got some very high bids.
Yeah, we did.
And
That's what struck me was the discrepancies in the prices of the
Mhm.
bids. It's unbelievable.
Outrageous, yeah.
I 100% agree. And we don't know why. We did talk to the low bid contractor who stands by their bid and had acceptable references. We surmised that the others were thinking that there was going to be more work or more risk, or getting into this site was more
They
complicated,
didn't want the work.
or they didn't really want the work.
Or there's an unknown that they didn't.
They built in a bunch of risk
Yeah.
in their bid for something that the low bid contractor says, well, we're comfortable.
Do we have an assurance that the low bid is not going to change order us up to the high bid? Because that'd be a really good move.
I
Well,
don't think I should comment on that one.
contracting issues.
Okay.
Try to avoid that.
Outstanding.
Mhm.
All right.
Okay, other comment or questions for staff? No. Okay. Public comment, please. Seeing none, we'll close public comment, and now we're ready for a motion.
Missing the motion number.
Where does it? Project.
Project 2658. It's on the
Yeah.
cover. Okay.
It'd be 36.
I'll make a motion to approve project 2658 contract for French Dam hydraulic line replacement and inlet gate actuator reimbursement project.
Thank you.
Second. Okay.
We'll have
Right.
Director Fowler second, please. And then Madam, please call the roll.
Yes. Division 5,
Yes.
Division 4,
Yes.
Division 3,
Aye.
Division 2,
Aye.
Division 1.
Yes, thank you. Right, thank you. You're off the hot seat now.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
This
Peter.
morning.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, General Manager's report.
There is only one item to report for the general manager's report, and that would be to bring Mr. Chip up and give a water
Very good.
water update.
Good morning, Board. Chip Close, Director of Water Operations. And June 25th, we're getting into the heart of summer here, and flows are up. So I'll walk you through where we're at as far as precip and storage, and also the PG&E outage, as soon as the clicker decides to work. Oh, there it goes. Okay. So here we are with our typical Bowman Lake precipitation report. And as you can see, we are rapidly approaching the end of the precip year. We're going to finish out right there at average. Pretty cool. We're about 1 inch below, but had a couple thunderstorms the last few days. I think we're going to be right at average. Pretty cool. This slide here shows you the snow water content across California, and basically what it shows is there is none. It's all melted and run off, which is appropriate for this time of year. NID reservoir storage, again, continues to be very full as compared to average in the blue shaded area below. We are at 104% of our 11-year average and 94% of capacity. However, if you've all driven by Rollins, you can see that Rollins is not in that camp, and that is due to the PG&E outage and our continued drawdown of that reservoir for our customer base. Scotts Flat is in a similar vein that we are pulling water out of it for Nevada County. This particular slide here is the forecast for this year with the PG&E issue at hand. What you can see is the red line was our forecast level for this year. The green line is what we did last year, and the thicker like turquoise line is where we're actually at. So we're doing a little bit better than we initially anticipated, which is great news. Some of that is conservation, and some of that is a little less demand and cooler weather. All of that is playing effect, as well as our distribution operators trying to run that system as tightly as possible. We learned a few things last year, and we're running it tight. This one here is Rollins, and kind of the same scenario here. You have the red and the orange line is what we anticipated the forecast to be this year. The light blue turquoise line there, kind of in between that and the green line, is where we're actually at this year. So really good response on Rollins as far as being above where we thought we'd be this time of year. I can attribute a lot of that actually to PCWA, strangely enough. They are pumping a lot more water out of the American River and using less of their Rollins allotment. I think more than anything for assurance and insurance for things going sideways later in the year. So I can understand that. And then some of that again is towards our guys and running the system conservatively. So all in all, numbers are doing better than we anticipated, which is good news. And
Jeff, is the blue line, the top blue line is what we normally Rollins
correct.
in the summer, yeah.
Yeah, you can see very different than we normally would run. So an update on PG&E. We had a call on Monday and their overall schedule hasn't changed. They still anticipate full operation of the Spalding horns by August 2nd. But there is some good news in all of that, in that they think they will get the actual tunnel full and start unit testing July 7th, 8th, somewhere in that area. The good news for NID is that as soon as they get that tunnel full, we're going to send some water across and put it in the South Yuba Canal, and that will tremendously help Scotts Flat and hopefully prevent rotating canal outages. We thought we'd be very close with the July 4th holiday timeframe would be about the time we thought we might have to put those into place. Right now with the conservation we're seeing, cooler temperatures, we think we can make it till July 7th, fingers crossed. So as long as PG&E hits those targets at this point in time, we're holding off on any notifications of canal rotations. So we'll keep you in the loop, but right now, fingers crossed. And then as far as once that tunnel's full, they begin testing Rollins. They begin testing the Powerhouse Spalding 1. Those flows will go to Rollins, but they won't be maximum flows. So Rollins will see some benefit from those testing dates, but not full flows. And again, we don't expect those full flows to happen till August. Hopefully there's a little fluff in there and they do it a little earlier, but right now that's what their schedule says.
Are we still closing the boat ramps? I mean, are we to the point where we're closing the boat ramps? I know we are at Rollins summer closed already.
Close.
Yes, so you can see the boat ramps in this chart, the solid red line, a colored line. So there's a purple line going across, is Long Ravine Peninsula is the red line, and then Greenhorn is the blue line. We anticipate at least one ramp staying in this year, as long as we get that testing underway and we can kind of slow that drop. But it's going to be very close. So.
Okay. And then the same question for Scott's?
Scotts Flat will be fine.
Will be fine.
We do think the boat ramps will stay in. And as you can see, we didn't really get below the boat ramps last year until the end of September. So, you know, people are kind of hanging up the boating at that point in time. So it's going to be close, but at least most of the summer will be enjoyed up there recreationally, I hope.
Thanks to our Cracker Jack staff.
These pictures are all online.
We can put them online.
Yeah,
I think that's important.
The boat ramp closing, you know, get a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. We'll get it updated.
That'd be great.
US Drought Monitor hasn't changed a whole bunch. Basically, Northern California is in good shape. Southern California is becoming drier by the minute. The 6 to 10 day temperature outlook shows pretty warm here. And the precip is near normal. The monthly temperature outlook is very similar, a little bit above average, not extreme, but a little bit above. And precip is 50-50, which typical. And then the US seasonal drought monitor starting to creep in around us a little bit here. The rest of the area north and south of us is moving into drought tendency, but we're still in good shape. So fingers crossed we continue and that we get a good winter next winter. And then as far as conservation goes, you know, the treated water conservation is not quite there. I'll just say it. It's kind of on par with our 13-year average. And again, a lot of that has to do with the weather. And if we've had rain, it's actually been a pretty dry spring. It's been cool, but it's been dry. So Yeah, we're just moving along at average at this point in time. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Questions?
Sounds bizarre. We do drought, we do precipitation, we do all this forecasting here, or at least we combine it with the people. After visiting the canals on our field trip here, fire seems to be incredible. Is there a fire forecast out there or something that we could look at also?
There is a fire forecast. We do occasionally look at it. It doesn't play into how we move the water through the system per se. But yes, there is one out there, and the hazard levels and the canals that go through those high hazard levels. Certainly part of our mitigation plan is how we deal with fire, especially in the elevated flume areas where they're subject to fire. We have to have a plan B in case those burn up.
Cal Fire has an updated plan on their website.
NIFC.
It's rest assured that all of our facilities are in a high fire hazard location.
Yeah.
And besides, unless you get down closer towards the Lincoln area, but you know, the Cal Fire has a website that posts their high fire capacity, and every year they update that. So Nevada County, Placer County, where we have our main facilities, will be in that pretty deep red zone.
I think suffice to say that every year we're in extreme fire danger.
It's not area.
It's the whole
It's
area.
massive.
California.
It's
Yep.
a regional issue.
Okay.
Director
So-
Hanson?
To the fire issue, yeah, one of the customers said that, hey, the canal looks like an inch low. I said, okay, do you have enough water to irrigate? Yeah, we're fine. So the ditch tender's doing its job. And then when I went over to the house on Friday, Higgins Fire Department was drawing out of that canal into a Cal Fire truck, into a Grass Valley and Penn Valley trucks, putting out a fire that accidentally started because of a battery. And our canals probably saved that whole area. Great job.
Yeah.
As
One of the side benefits of irrigation.
Yes.
it was huge. And it's just amazing how appreciative everybody was to have that water right there.
Stuff.
Director Fowler, comment, question? Director Beerwagon?
No, thank you. Thank you, Chip.
Thank you, Chip. Okay.
Good job on the drought thing, the webinar.
All right, we will move to then Board of Directors items and reports. Director Fowler, do you have something you'd like to share?
I had opportunity to do a couple tours of both Scott's Flat and which was I think it was an exploratory tour, but we also touched on some. There's also a little, to a small extent, a facilities tour is really useful, and I appreciated that. And then the very next day, got to do a South Yuba Canal tour, and we did bunches of hiking. We had some great tour guides. We even packed lunch with us, and I learned some geology stuff that
Isn't that great?
we had. I was outnumbered. We had a lot of engineers along, so it was actually it was very eye opening. I appreciated the tours very much. And then I don't remember if it's mine or it's Earl's turn, but Earl, is it your turn? Okay, go ahead. No, he'll cover it. And that's all I had. Thank you.
Oh, okay, great. Director Beerwagon?
Okay, so I went on the same tour with Brad to Scotts Flat. It was very, picture was worth 1,000 words once again. So, and 2 farmers and 4 engineers. What a deal, right? It was great. Learned a lot from them. The only other thing I would like to propose is that we propose a board workshop to discuss summarizing the plan for water and our direction with raising Rollins or doing something else so that we have a unified position going forward that we don't currently have.
More storage.
You got that, Greg?
Mhm.
Thank you. Director Stevens?
Couple things. I got to experience just how great our staff is. I've dealt with Chip many times and it's been very, very impressive, and Gabe also, but Tricia Pennock, is that correct? We had one of our customers contact me and he had some questions. She provided me with everything, made me look smart. I had everything in front of me, met with the guy, and he is thrilled to death because of what we can do and stuff like that. So big, big clap out to her. I'm recommending at Dustin's cue last time that we do a closed session to kind of get an outline of what our options are for control of our water and for expansion of our water stuff. Because maybe just a flow chart for now, or here's what we're looking at, or here's what even is available, and these are out of the picture for whatever reason. Just kind of keep us involved. I know you guys are doing stuff behind the scenes. I know that there's other discussions going on, but I kind of like to be included in it because of the sensitive nature with PG and stuff like that. I understand it needs to be closed session.
We are, if I may briefly respond.
Sure.
I will coordinate with Jen. We are due for a quarterly.
Yeah, we are.
Report, so I'll coordinate with her.
Plus, we want to hear about our 401.
The big picture.
Yes. So I'd appreciate that. And the other thing is that, once again, the field trips were awesome. Yes, the engineers and geologists outnumbered the farmers, and that was good too. But there was great interaction. I got to not only discuss things with board members, that it was just casual discussion and we get to know each other, but I got to know our engineers and things like that and discuss things at a level there that was wonderful, because I got to learn their competency, how they're thinking about things, how prepared they are, and that was really, really nice.
Great.
And the last thing is that I learned just how significant the fire hazard is to that canal, and just how scary it is. And just a thought is that I know that we've had these maintenance crews come through before. I was informed that any tree 10-inch DBH or bigger has to have an eagle plant or a bird plant, stuff like that. Maybe we can figure out a way to go through and take out all the 4-inch DBH trees and then slowly work our way up. I saw a pine tree that is infested with bark beetles sitting over the top of our canal like this, and I'm going, holy moly. And it was, it was a big boy. And then I was seeing rock slides along the canal that were holding back with cables. And so, yeah, it was very enlightening, very
Gives you a lot of confidence.
sobering and humbling. So,
Yeah.
so
No
that's my report.
Thank you so much, Director Johansson.
Yeah, thank you. First, I got a letter, email from John Rodriguez asking us to do at Bowman and Jackson Meadows what they're doing at Bulliard's Bar. Totally different animals, but they're still trying to get the lakes open for fishing. Thanks for electing me, that Western Nevada County thing. Thanks. Next week, a farm tour, the high school farm tour. That's going to be great. Also going to have a meeting with Alex at OES, 1 o'clock on Wednesday. That's gotten set up. The webinar that Chip participated on Monday night was they just got to check a box for the state on that one, I think. But if they just follow our drought contingency plan and make adaptations, it'd work really well for the county. And then, as you probably guessed, I'm all for spending a little more money today if it's going to save us a lot of money on operations and maintenance down the road.
Thank you so much. And my very brief report is that I also went on the Scotts Flat tour and with Director Stevens, and it was wonderful to spend time with our staff. It's how we all get to know each other. There was that, but the real benefit for me was to see how we are going to redo the spillway and the reasons for redoing the spillway and why it's so expensive, and really having the entire process explained in detail with your eyes on. That was really a good experience and helped me understand clearly what's happening. I represent that area, and now I feel I'm more prepared to be able to talk to the constituents in and around Scotts Flat about the upcoming, what may or may not be closures. Hard to know exactly yet what we're going to do, but I have a better idea about what is going to be needed, and I appreciate that opportunity. And that will be it for me. Thank you. So should there be anything else? Seeing nothing, meeting adjourned.